Hey, hi, welcome back to my vlog. My journey building making made. Um, and I thought today I might talk a little bit about my story. I'm going on a podcast in just a minute, so maybe I shouldn't talk or myself too much out about it. I guess I'll tell you a little bit about my experience with therapists. That might be interesting. I don't know. I've been, my mental health journey in my life and like the story of it goes way young. Way young. Like, I feel like it's an entire season. It's always a new season on that thread. But when I was young, the first time I went to a therapist was because for some reason, I was a kid and I put a wire around my neck, and I went into my house and I was like, "Mom, I'm gonna kill myself," or something like that. And she was like, "He needs to go to the psychiatrist." So they took me, and I remember sitting down with the guy, and then he was like, draw what happened, and I had to like draw myself like with the wire around my neck with my mom, and I don't know what came of that. But somehow suicide got stuck in my brain from that. That was my first encounter with a psychiatrist. The next was, I think it got more serious. I was 16 or 17, I attempted suicide with, after I had broken up with my girlfriend. I was failing in college. Like, I felt like my life was falling apart, which it was. And life always falls apart. And I got obsessed with suicide. And I took some pills, and this is dark. And I went to the emergency room, and then I shipped everything back home. Like, got back home, and then my grandpa the next morning was like, "You need to go see a doctor. You need to just do it for me, please. Do it for me." And I was like, "Okay, Grandpa, I'll do it for you, but I really don't want to." And so I go, and they decided to ship me off to a psychiatric ward for 3 days, where they did a mental health evaluation of me. So for 3 days, I snuck my cell phone in. I somehow got my cell phone in, so I was like texting people. I don't know how I did that. I think I like stuck it in my shoe or something. Anyways, that was a weird place. Not to say people in psychiatric ward are weird, but I had some weird experiences with people. It was the first time I met a transgender person, and I was like, "Wait, what?" I didn't understand what was going on. And there was a guy who was sleeping in my room, and he had a bone that had been sharpened, and he left it out. And I told the nurses, I was like, "There's a sharp T-bone steak in my room." There's a sharp T-bone steak in my room. I don't know if he's gonna like stab me or going to hurt somebody. I met a lady who she said she talked to trolls. Like everywhere she see trolls, and she talked to them, like, little figurine trolls. Anyways, they just let me out after 3 days, and they were like, "Okay, we did our analysis of you," and I went back home. My parents picked me up, and I went back home, and life continued. And I kept on getting in trouble as a teenager, but I didn't see any more mental health experts after that. And then in the military, and then when I got in the military, there was so much. I did 2 deployments in Afghanistan, and I was a combat engineer, and I would search for IEDs. And anyways, I got hurt. I got a Purple Heart, and when I got back, there were just so many therapists, so many meetings. I had so much psychiatric evaluation done. But conclusion, like, they were just looking for PTSD mainly, and diagnosing PTSD, and things that are connected to combat and going through war zones or whatever. That was my next one. And then after I got out of the military, I had this job where I was managing a co-working space here in Austin. I was managing the whole thing. I had like 15, 20 offices, events, and I was managing the whole thing. And I had all these therapists in these offices. And so I got to know, I was like around them. I got to know the work. There's a lot of different modalities. There's a lot of different aspects to it, and that space. And that's where I met David. I remember I was doing Pride and I met him. And I was like, well, I don't have a therapist, and this guy's cool, so I'm gonna talk to him. So I started doing work with him over the years, and a lot of the focus was my sexuality. And yeah, it's like 10 years later, just 5, 6 years later, and now I'm gonna be on his podcast. So if you want to listen to it, just let me know, and I can give you the link. His name is David Schloss, and so this is going to be an interesting podcast, but it's all focused on entrepreneurship. I don't think it's going to be about my sexuality. But sexuality, man, it runs deep for all men. It runs really, really deep. And I think for some of us, deeper than others. I think for some of us, probably for many men, sexuality is just an easy topic. Like, it's just not a thing in their life, and they just are healthy, easy with it, and that's it, end of the day. And then you have this other spectrum. On the spectrum, you have this other type of man like me who is like, it's just complicated. It's just so complicated. Never ending. How complicated it is to dissect and analyze, and things that I'm going through. Even now, I did another video on OCD. Like, even now, like, I will say, I think it is similar to like sexual OCD. There are different ways that sexual OCD kind of happens. But yeah, sexual OCD has been the main theme the past couple years. It's been weird. It's been challenging. And I guess I will say, like, now having the PTSD thing, and then having a therapist for a while, but then I will say, like, a mental health crisis. Like, I've never had a mental health really that I would consider a crisis until about a year or two ago. And all of a sudden, this is where I'm going to get angry, but then all of a sudden, when I now had therapists in my life, and not angry at David or anything, but like, he didn't specialize in OCD, so he recommended that I go see somebody. But then I went to go see multiple therapists or talk to them about what I'm experiencing, and all of a sudden I felt like this anomaly that they didn't know what to do with. I guess we're going to talk about that here in this podcast too. Like, they didn't know what to do. I went to the VA because I still have VA coverage. I go to them and I talk to them about this, and I don't know. I'm still on my journey of seeking out what's best for me and what's gonna work for me in this season of my life. So that's what's true. I'm still on the journey, and therapy is maybe a part of it. I've tried some medications. I've been trying some meditation. It's hard though. It's really rough. It's really rough. It's the most challenging thing I've ever gone through in my life. I will say, it's the scariest. You know, I don't know. I guess it's connected, but like, I was obsessed with suicide for like a number of years, and I couldn't escape it. I could not escape the obsession for years. And I think when I started going to the gym the first time, and I put on some weight, my confidence grew, and I felt like I shed that part of me somehow, and I shed it, and then I outgrew it, and I stepped into life inspired to live. And since then, like, I see the ghost of it. I know the ghost of it. I see it, but it's now kind of gone, and I don't experience like the obsession for that anymore. But now there's this new obsession in my life that is like around these topics of sexuality. I don't know how they develop or why my brain is the way it is or why it turned out like this, but It's a very literal, practical thing that a lot of people do go through some like terrible OCD. They get some, mine is I think on a scale from 1 to 10, I'm trying not to like pigeonhole myself to that diagnosis. I haven't even been formally diagnosed, but I would say like on a 1 to 10, it can get really bad. It can get really bad. I'd say like I'm on a 3 compared to what I've seen from other people. So that's a part of the journey, I think, is having compassion for other people. So anyways, if you're out there, and maybe that's the title of this video, sexual OCD, we'll see. But if you're out there and you relate, I'm glad. I'm glad I could reach somebody who might have similar experiences. I think that's just so helpful. We feel so isolated. I feel isolated. I joined this group. There's a group that I joined with those people with OCD. So anyways, I hope you're all well. I hope you're all gonna have a great Friday, a great weekend. Best of luck. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.